Hello, my friends. Today we are going to make ourselves some paper snowflakes. Some of you have probably done this before, but it is always a good time. For this project, you're going to need a pair of scissors. So make sure your parents or whoever you are with can help you find a pair of scissors that are safe for you to use. This slide right here just is going to show you how to fold this paper. So if you have a hard time folding up your snowflake, you can go back and refer to that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take just one piece of nice thin paper, and I am going to fold my short end of my paper down onto my long end of my paper so that it makes a triangle. Or you can kind of also just eyeball it and cut off, about 1.5 inches of that piece of paper and make it into a square. The goal that you are trying to reach right now is to turn your piece of paper that is not square into a piece of paper that is square. This is one way to do it. You might know a different way, and that is okie dokie. So I'm just cutting off that extra little bit of paper. And now I'm going to fold my square up. So it was kind of already folded once there. So it's a nice triangle. Now I'm going to fold it like diagonally. So I'm going to take this corner and I'm going to bring it over to meet that corner. I'm holding it down nice and tight with one hand and then folding it and pressing down with the other hand. Folding can be really super duper difficult. So this is a good skill to work on. If you have a hard time with this, that's okie dokie. That is okay. That is okay. I don't need to say okie dokie. It's okay to have a hard time with this. Basically, you are just folding it up a bunch of times until you're ready to cut through it. If you fold it too much, it's going to be really hard to cut through. If you don't fold it enough, you can still cut shapes out of it. It just won't be quite as intricate. So one tip that I will give you is to make sure that you are holding on to that piece of paper and keeping it folded up really tightly. And you don't want to unfold it after every cut. When we make these in class, a lot of you want to do that. You want to keep checking it to see what it looks like. But for this, you kind of want it to be a surprise at the end. That way your paper stays nice and tightly folded up and it's easier to cut through. So I am going to cut out a bunch of shapes. They can be geometric shapes. That's something like a square or a triangle, or they can be more organic shapes. That's something like a blob. I can cut out kind of blobby shapes, or I can cut out nice, clean, crisp, straight edges. So when I am ready and I've cut out a bunch of shapes, so I have a lot of nice negative space. Negative space is the space around and in between your snowflake. So all those pieces that are cut out, those are negative spaces in your snowflake now. The snowflake is the positive space. So when I have cut all of it out, I'm going to unwrap it like a little present and see what it looks like. It's always a really fun surprise. Making little things is always really fun to me. So sometimes I like to take that extra piece of paper that was cut off and make it into a little square and make a little tiny itty bitty baby snowflake to go with it. You don't have to do this, but I just think it's fun to do. So I have a little tiny itty bitty square piece of paper, or you can kind of just eyeball a square. Reminder that something is a square when all of the sides are equal. So you're just trying to get a piece of paper where all the sides are equal. Then you can fold her right up. And because it's so little, you can't cut quite as much out of it. But because it's so little, what you do cut out kind of stands out more. So I think I only really cut out like 2 little pieces from this. But when I unwrapped it, I think it was still really pretty. You do want to be nice and gentle when you unwrap these. So if you have just been watching me make my snowflake and haven't started making your own, now is the perfect time to get out a piece of paper. What I have here are some coffee filters. Unless your parents use like the K-cup Keurig machines, your parents probably have these because most parents drink coffee. These are kind of really nice, thin pieces of paper, almost like tissue paper, but a little bit less fragile. But they make nice, delicate snowflakes when you cut them up. The white ones would be better, but all I had were the naturally colored ones. So I'm just going to fold this up until I get a nice little triangle where the paper isn't too thick for me to cut through, but it's nice and folded up a bunch of times. I like to make the edge of mine a little bit fancy. And then you just cut out some nice little shapes. I think I will speed this part up right now. But gentle reminder that you still should cut nice and slowly because that is the safest way to use your scissors, is nice and slowly, making sure that you are always looking at your scissors and your paper and where your fingers are when you are doing something like cutting. So I'm going to make another one here with you. This is sped up. It is twice as fast as real life. So if you've made snowflakes at home before, you might know that sometimes you fold them a little bit differently. Instead of just folding them in half every time, you might kind of try and fold them into thirds. So you end up with something that is six-sided, because in real life, snowflakes are every single snowflake that has ever existed in the world has been six-sided. It's something about how snowflakes are formed. That's a great science question to ask your science teacher to teach you about. It's something about how when they're in the atmosphere, they kind of like go up and down until they like form those crystals, and they will always form them to be six-sided. So sometimes I thought it looked like a face. Sometimes we will make our paper snowflakes be six-sided as well. So that very first slide that I showed at the beginning of this video did show how to fold it to be six-sided. But honestly, when I'm in class with you guys, and when I make them by myself, I kind of just like to fold it up a bunch of times. Okay, so I am going to make one last snowflake here, and I'm going to show you all the things that you should not do. There I eyeballed cutting off the extra paper. That's fine. You can definitely do that. But so some things that you might be running into problems with. So if you're having a hard time making your snowflakes, I'm going to show you a few things that they could go wrong. So I'm folding it up normally. That's all good so far. So now I'm going to take my scissors, and instead of cutting out shapes, so making negative spaces in my snowflake, I'm just making single cuts in, kind of like drawing a line with my scissors. So am I removing any paper? Nope. So when I unfold this, you're not going to see any cutout shapes. So even though I cut into my paper, no paper was removed. It makes kind of an interesting texture over the whole paper, but it doesn't make any negative spaces. And that's what we want to see our snowflake design, is we want to see those negative spaces inside the snowflake. So that's one thing to avoid, is just making single cuts in. So now I'm going to refold it, and I'm going to I'm gonna cut just some itty bitty, tiny itty bitty baby triangles out of my snowflake. The more intricate, the more you cut out of your snowflake, the more delicate and pretty it is going to look in the end. It kind of seems the opposite. It seems like if you cut out little delicate pieces, you should end up with like a nice delicate snowflake, but it's really the opposite. You want to cut out nice big shapes from your snowflake so that you're left with just little bits of paper on your snowflake, and your snowflake will look really delicate. The snowflake, it's still beautiful, but it looks really super duper chunky. So the last mistake that we have all made, for one thing, you don't want to unfold and refold your snowflake a bunch of times, is if you kind of like go ham and just cut out completely willy-nilly. A lot of the times you'll cut your snowflake all the way apart. Or you'll cut out so much that you'll end up with it in like two pieces, or you'll end up with it only being attached in one little tiny spot, and then it rips apart really easily, which is fine. Like, this is still a pretty piece of cut paper, but it didn't quite make a snowflake, which is okay. If that happens to you, you throw it away, and you start again. It is perfectly okay to throw away artwork that you made that you don't like. Not everything you make needs to be perfect. Not everything you will make will be perfect. I don't love all the snowflakes that I make, that's for sure. Okay, so one last final step to completing your project today is to first get all of your snowflakes that you are going to keep in one pile, including any little itty bitty pieces of paper that you love and want to keep. And then to get your trash can, I like to bring the trash can over to me and kind of sweep all of my scraps into the trash can. It's a faster way to clean up, but sometimes you end up getting stuff on the floor. So your last step, and this is not an optional step, is to get all of your scraps of paper cleaned up. Every single itty bitty scrap, you clean it up. You made the mess, you gotta do the cleaning up. Okay, my friends. I'm going to stick in at the end, I think, some like pretty pictures of snowflakes that are probably way prettier than even ones that I could make. So they probably won't be what yours look like either. If I can't do it, you're probably going to have a hard time doing it. But I'll show you some extra pretty ones, and I'll also leave that kind of like guide on how to fold up the paper. Okay, my friends, I hope you have fun. I would love it if you would send me a picture of your snowflake. You can upload it to the portfolio section of Dojo. You can send it to me. Your parents can send it to me in a message on Dojo. You can send it to my email. If you're in kindergarten, you can put it on Seesaw. No matter how you send me a picture, or even if you don't send me a picture, I like to see your work, but I don't have to. What I do have to have you do, just because it's going to make my life so much easier, is to have you, when you are done with this project, write down your name, click the little questions that I've asked you, but the most important thing is that you've written your name, your whole name, first and last name, clicked which classroom teacher you have, and then hit submit, so I can easily keep track of who has done their work and who hasn't. That has been a huge, not problem, but it's been difficult for me. It's been a lot to manage, having things come to me in so many different places. So I'm hoping that this will make my life a little easier. Okay, my friends, bye.